How are you, Donald Faison?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes, we don't want you to lie. Good. No one wants lies.
I'm good. I'm living the dream. I've got a lot of hardware in my house, and I kind of like it.
What's the hardware? It's animation gear.
I got a shit ton of animation gear. Like, I got a lot of stuff. First of all, shout out to the people at Leica Studios, and the people at Stupid Buddy Studios who have been very supportive of my animation and the things that I want to do with animation. And Rob Ronning and his team of puppet makers and stuff like that. Thank you to a whole bunch of people. Brad Schiff.
All your mentors.
All my mentors, all my buddies. It's a small community, but it's a very helping community. And because of this, I now have a compact junior motion control rig.
Wow.
And I have something that's called a jetpack that you put on the back of puppets that helps with subtle movements. And this is because of the people at Leica and the people at Stupid Buddy Studios.
Wow. So you have a real, the motion control camera rig is going to allow you to move the camera and crane up and down as you're animating.
Correct. What happens is I program it to do what I want it to do before I film. It's a lot of blocking, obviously.
Yeah.
But then with animating, instead of having to worry about with the camera and the focus and all of that, because that's already preset now, I can now just focus on the animating and the story I want to tell.
That's
in
really
the art
cool.
Form that I've chosen.
Well, that's amazing, dude. It's like you're an artist who got a very fancy new instrument. Let's say you're a guitarist and you got a very, very fancy new guitar.
You know what it reminds me of?
Go ahead.
The day you got your first movie camera where you were like, I can freaking make a movie on my own right now.
I know. And I took a lot of pride, too. In a good person, there were shots from my red Komodo that were in the movie.
Yes.
And I was very pleased that it looked as good as it did. My own camera some of the shots were shot from that. If you saw the movie, all the shots of Florence swimming in the beginning, that was all just my red Komodo, which is a beautiful camera.
Those are some great shots, too.
They are. They open
when
the
you
movie.
really think about it, like, yeah, you know what I mean? It opens the movie.
It opens the movie.
Yeah.
Donald.
That's amazing.
I'm going to Europe to visit our friend Josh Radin.
I like this. These are the things that I don't like.
That you're not coming. Well, you can't. You never want to do stuff.
I've got kids.
Yeah, you do have kids.
We understand this.
Well, Josh Radin and I don't have kids, so we're going to hang out together in Europe.
Where in Europe?
I'm going.
Where can the people find you if they're looking?
Well, this will come out long after I'm gone, but we're starting in Stockholm, where Josh is a regular, and I've been to Stockholm a couple times, and it's a beautiful city. And then we're gonna work our way through. We're gonna go to Paris.
Wow.
And then there's a ... about what we do next, but we have some time to play.
Go to London.
I may. I've been in London the most of all, so I'm trying to get outside of my box.
Okay.
I got this new. Do you see this G-Shock watch I got?
You G'd up.
Isn't that cool?
Is that from our G-Shock? Did G-Shock sponsor us?
No, I wish they did. I have some fancy watches, and people told me don't wear fancy watches traveling because you'll get your arm cut off. So,
wait, what?
Well, you know, if you have a fancy, nice watch, you're sort of a target for being robbed, obviously. So
do you think they're going to rob you just because you're Zach Braff?
No, just because if I was wearing a nice watch like a dummy walking around the wrong place at the wrong time, I could have my arm cut off. So I want to keep my hands.
Got it.
So my friend who's a big watch guy said, "Oh, just go get a cool G-Shock." And let me tell you something. G-Shock is not a sponsor of this podcast, but they should be, because look how cool this thing is.
It's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice G-Shock watch you got there, bro.
Yeah. What's going on, Joelle? How are you?
Living, man. I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm a good ass.
I'm sorry.
Living.
I'm sorry.
Took a breath to say it and everything. Exhale, Joelle. Living, man.
Yeah, I followed Joelle on Instagram. It looks like she's living her best life from the Instagram view of things. But I guess that's true for everyone, right? We all post like the best shit.
I'm not picturing the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate the person that's just like, I'm gonna post all my bullshit on Instagram. I
Yeah,
appreciate the person that's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna fake it. I appreciate you.
Well, I don't
Thank
want to.
you.
You know, I don't want to see negativity. You're gonna mute negativity. I like to see,
Right.
like, yeah, show me, make me laugh. Show me,
Make me
Donald,
happy. Inspire me.
I sent Donald the funniest fucking meme.
Which
That
one was it?
I
You
can't.
send me a
I'm not
couple
even
of
going
them.
to talk about this on the podcast. It's too X-rated even for us. But that shit was
Got it.
funny.
Oh boy.
You sent me a couple that have been like, oh shit.
I'm talking about
But
the
it's
one,
funny.
the one that was related to cunnilingus.
Oh my God.
Listen, Donald, I send Donald so many memes and he doesn't reply to most. But once in a while, I get an LOL and I feel like I want a prize.
You get a ha 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 ha. Dude.
Yeah,
The
but
ha
you've
ha
also-
ha ha's.
And also, if you put a B before it, bah ha 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 ha,
Bah, ha, 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 ha.
it's even
Bah,
harder.
ha, ha.
It's even harder.
Dude,
I'm
Did
sorry
you,
they didn't. I'm sorry they didn't pick up Ahsoka.
did they cancel Ahsoka too?
Didn't they?
No,
They
Acolyte.
canceled the Acolyte.
Oh,
I believe
sorry.
Ahsoka will get a second season.
Get that right for me. I may have fucked that up.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You could say that shit.
I don't want to
care.
make. I don't want to make mistakes, but
They
can't-
canceled the Acolyte.
the acolyte. Okay, but they
That
didn't make.
show,
it-
I'm going to be honest with you. Now that it's gone,
Yeah.
thank goodness they canceled that shit.
Well, I guess all
Yeah,
the
that is
I guess
cool.
all the mega fans agreed with you, Donald, because they
it's not
canceled.
about. It's not, listen. I'm gonna just say one thing. They were stepping into waters that were just a little too deep. They were stepping into the lore of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and if you're gonna do that, you have to really, really. I don't want to hear about his apprentice. I want to hear about the.
You want to hear about his sexy ass apprentice? That's crazy, Donald. 85% of the reason
don't
I
know
showed
if
up for
that's
that
his
show. I said,
apprentice.
is Manny
We don't even
Jacinto
know-
taking off his
We
shirt?
don't even know if that's his apprentice.
go.
This is man. Listen. There was one episode of that show that was worth watching. Everything else, I'm sorry, it was very slow paced. You could have tied all of that into one episode.
It
and
had
kept
many,
telling
many,
story.
many issues. 100%.
Yeah. Well, you know
Yes.
what I've been watching we had Tony Hale on, and I went back and I
Yes.
started watching the final season of Veep because I don't think I'd seen it. And man, that is the funniest show ever. Like
So
that is the
good.
funniest
Ever?
that I will tell you that
It's
I
up there.
can't think of a half-hour comedy that has more laugh out loud humor per minute than Veep. It's insane the amount. It's just all it is setup, joke, setup, joke, 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 setup, joke, setup, joke. It's like
My
it's
question
insane.
is this. My question is this. By season, are you saying this? Or are you saying as a whole in general?
I'm saying
Because there are
that-
certain seasons of The Office that are fucking lights out compared
Right.
to
Well, it's a different-
most comedy on television.
Nah, yeah, they're both. We're talking about. We're talking about Rarefied Air. We're talking about some of the funniest shows of our lives. I think Veep is one of the funniest comedies I've seen in my adult life. Half-hour
Right on.
comedies. Yeah,
Right on.
the cast is just unbelievable, and they get away with saying the most horrid, crazy shit because everyone's a bad person. They're all such horrible people that they have license to say the most inappropriate, insane shit. It's brilliant writing. And Tony Hale is so funny. Oh my God. And
He's
Julia,
the one that says the least.
yeah, he's like the only nice person. He's the only angel. Well, I'm so thrilled that we have Henry Winkler on today. I mean, this is a big honor. I mean, Donald and I grew up at the time when Happy Days was a really important show. I mean, I can't speak for you, Don, but in my life, it was a really important show. And then the fact that he has gone on to have so much other success in other things makes me just so happy for him. He's known as like literally being the nicest guy in Hollywood.
Dude, he's one of my mentors, and he probably doesn't even know he's one of my mentors. That's how amazing Henry Winkler is. You know what I mean? Like, one of my first, listen, you know me, Zach. You know how I take a lot of things, I don't take a lot of things serious. Things that I should take really seriously, I fucking kind of am like, it is what it is, right? That's just how I am.
Yes.
And I did that, and we're going to talk about this with him, obviously, but I did that when I was shooting Clueless. They were like, yo, Henry Winkler's coming in to direct tomorrow for the week. For the week. Everybody, this is a great time. You're going to it's going to be amazing. And I went out that night and partied at a club until like 4 o'clock in the morning and missed my call time by like an hour. And walked to, and they called me. They woke me up with a phone call. And I run to, I get in my car, I drive to Paramount, jump out of my car, put on all my clothes, put my makeup on. You know you're in deep shit when the makeup artist ain't saying shit to you and the makeup artist is just looking at you like, you dumb ass motherfucker.
I'm not stepping in this shit.
Right, I'm right. You know what I mean?
I don't want to be associated with you.
Right. You know you're in deep shit. So I get all my shit on and I run the set and Henry beelines right towards me. And I'm like, oh,
he was directing the episode?
Directing the episode. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. And I'm like, first of all, I get very combative when people try to fucking authority, when people are, I hate authority. So when anybody tries to,
I never noticed that.
You never noticed that, right? So when anybody tries to fucking, puff up, I puff back. That's just how I am, right? So he comes up to me and I'm ready to puff back and he hits me with the kindest shit ever. We're not going to do this here. We're not going to have an argument. You're late. We need to get to work and we need to catch up. So whatever it is that you've got going on, let's put that behind us. Let's get on set and let's give it our best.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh shit. Like he just completely diffused me everything. Like I'm ready to fucking fight the Fonz. And this motherfucker's like, chill, chill. Let's fucking, right?
Yeah.
So we do the shit. He not only is pitching me jokes, he not only is giving me different rhythms on how to act, he's also freaking talking to me like I'm a human being. Like instead of just, a lot of these actors, a lot of directors see actors a certain way. This dude's talking to me like,
and you were young, you were saying he was talking to you like a peer, not a kid.
Not a kid, right?
Right. All right.
And so from that moment on, he and I have had a relationship that I look at it as a mentorship. He might not see it that way, but he's done so much for my life. So we'll leave it at that.
All right. Well,
until he gets in.
Let's bring him in. Henry Winkler's here, everybody.
Donald, do you want to count us down?
5, 6, 7, 8.
Stories about a show we made about a bunch of docs and nurses and a janitor who loved to hate. I said he's got stories that you all should know. So gather round to hear our Scrubs Rewatch Show with Zach and Donald.
Henry Winkler, I don't know that we've ever met in person, but my name is Zach and I'm a massive fan of yours.
Zach, we met at an affair for children's HIV.
Yes, at the Elizabeth Glazer
That's
Pediatric
right.
AIDS.
Yes.
That's right. You came with me actually that year, and we had Wilder with us, and I introduced you to Henry
yes,
Winkler.
that's right. Well, we've just been talking because we do a little thing before the show, Henry, and we've both been talking about how much you and your career have meant to us.
Wow.
And in lots of different ways, which we'll go into. But from my most sincere heart, it's an honor to have you on the show and to talk to you.
Wow. That's a great way to start.
Well, it's the truth. It is the truth. You've known me since I was 23 years old.
Yes.
When I was fresh and new in this industry.
And funny.
you directed me and ever since I can remember, I've being in Hollywood, being in Los Angeles, you have been like the example of what it means to be a good person and a nice person and a smart person
That's
in
so
Hollywood.
funny because I'm changing tomorrow.
Really?
I've decided I've had it.
Henry, you do have a reputation, I got to say. I just did another person's podcast today, and I said I had the honor of interviewing Henry Winkler later, and they said, it's the rumors about him being the nicest person in the world are true. So you do have this reputation of being one of the nicest people in Hollywood.
Yeah, but you know what? I have to say, I've thought about that. I mean, I don't know that I'm nice. What I think I am is grateful. I think I just am so grateful that I get to do what I do, that I get to have this family, this life that is amazing. That's what it is, and I have gratitude.
Do you have to work on that, or
No.
or is that something that comes naturally to you?
I know it because it's there. I mean, I thought about it, and then I looked, and I thought, oh, there it is, and it's always been there, you know. I wrote a memoir.
Yeah, tell us the title of it.
It's called Being Henry. I kept it very simple, and there's a picture of me, so you can't miss it.
Good.
And as I have to say that in a few months it comes out in paperback. So
Good.
if you
Being
don't,
Henry, everybody.
If you don't,
and do you read the audiobook by?
I did. Now I'm
Right,
so dyslexic that most actors, what do they take like a day and a half to read a big taka book?
Yeah.
They allowed me not 100 hours.
Wow.
They gave me
wow.
100 hours.
So you got to really go through it and do it in your voice and everything. You're not rushed.
Go back over it because I left words out.
Right.
That's fine. Is that common with most actors? There are a lot of us out there with dyslexia. Like I have dyslexia bad too.
Well, 1 out of 6 children on the earth have some sort of learning challenge. You know, and what is so extraordinary to me is that the man who is running for vice president, Mr. Waltz, has a son who is learning challenged, who is nonverbal, and people attacked him for getting so emotional about his dad.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was upsetting. I mean, yeah, I saw that too. That was really horrible. When did you realize you were dyslexic? How did you figure it out?
My stepson, Jed, who came into my life when he was 4, in the 3rd grade, he could not write a report on the Hopi Nation. We took him to visit the Hopi in Arizona because he was studying Native Americans in school. And he's so verbal. He's so funny. And I said, well, come on, you're go back in your room and do it. And we finally had him tested. And everything they said about him was true about me.
Wow. So how old were you?
31.
Wow.
So until 31, I thought I was just stupid.
Wow. And when you were learning scripts and when you were auditioning back in the 70s, was that extra hard for you to memorize and to
the reading around the table when we have our first reading so that the entire crew can hear what is going to happen that week? I would stumble. I would mess other actors up with their timing because I never gave them their cue. Memorizing was easy. So what I couldn't do reading wise, I could do in memorizing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I worked with an actor recently who's dyslexic, and he said, "Oh, at the table reads, I have to be off book. I have to memorize it, otherwise I'll mess up all my jokes." And I get so nervous. So he was memorizing it for the table read.
Yeah.
So he was battling that too.
I actually had to tell on the last project I worked on. I had to tell them, listen, I have a really hard time putting words together when I read them. So table reads, either get me the script early or I'm gonna mess it up a lot. I'm gonna mess up a lot. I'm gonna have to go back. And for the most part they did. But when it was right away, oof. It's really, it would be really hard. It's embarrassing, but it's like, well, shit, it's my thing. And some days I have like everybody else. Some days you have days where it works and you're able to focus on it. But then there's days where it's like, oh, I'm killing everybody right now, and they think I'm illiterate, and really it's something
but
else.
then all of a sudden your performance speaks for itself, right? You know, I think that, and you didn't ask me, but I will just mention it. I think you should just let that go because it just doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, people have got different problems, and you have overcome yours in that you are an improvisateur. You've got great energy on the screen. The two of you together, even when it's not necessarily an entertainment, but a commercial, you guys are connected at the hip. It's funny. It's watchable over and over and over again. That comes from spirit. And that's what you have to be grateful for.
Yes.
Well, thank you for saying that.
It's true.
Thank you for saying that.
It's true.
Well, but it means
I
a lot
almost
coming
changed
from
my plan.
you.
Listen, I know what a good...
Well, I wish you would have. You should have.
That's funny. We'll still take you. We can get you a special deal.
Well, listen, we can work on this.
Listen, most people come up to Donald and I and ask us details about the T-Mobile plans, and we don't know what we don't know. We just say we're in the commercials.
You know what?
But for you, Henry, we'll go figure out what best
We'll go
plan.
figure out what we can do.
Everybody likes little ass.
You know, I
Don't even
did
act like you don't.
a commercial last year for eye care because my father-in-law had geographic atrophy, and so I did this just saying, go to the doctor and check your eyes. And Dick Van Dyke, out of the blue, called me up. He said, I have this. Do you know any more than I do? I said, oh my God, I wish I did.
No, Donald, I've had this thing. I walk around New York City and people, most people are like, if they say something, they say, whatever, they compliment you for a thing they like. But occasionally I have people be like, those commercials are so funny with you and Donald. And I go, oh, thank you. They go, now tell me, like, the monthly, is it really? And I'm like, I don't know what the monthly is. I honestly don't know what plan is best for you.
That's great.
Henry, I wanted to tell you, because you're talking about your book and your audiobook, which, with people like you who are such wonderful performers and have such distinct voices, it made me think of one of the best audiobooks I ever heard of my whole life, which is Gary Marshall's book.
Oh, my God.
My Happy Days in Hollywood, which if you love entertainment and don't read this book, listen to it, because Gary had for those of you who don't know, he was creator of so many beloved TV shows, including Happy Days, and a director with an enormous career, including Pretty Woman and many others. But Gary had such a charactery voice.
Oh my goodness.
And him telling his stories in his voice is wonderful. And I just wanted to just segue into Happy Days via that, because
I'll tell you something. I could not wear leather in the beginning. I had to wear cloth because ABC thought for sure I was going to be associated with crime. So
right. In the beginning, you looked like you worked at a mechanic shop and everything like that. You always had was it blue?
Yes.
In the beginning,
but the jacket was a McGregor golf jacket. And it was very hard to be cool in cloth. So Gary went to ABC and he said, he could be hurt if he's riding his bike. He should fall over. He could get a scratch. And so ABC said, when he's with his bike, he can wear leather. And then there was no cell phone at that time. He went down to the lobby of ABC. He said, he called the writer's room. He said, okay, never write another scene without Fonzie's bike again. That's how the leather got in there.
It's amazing. And I'm telling you, if you listen to this book, there are so many stories like that from all of these shows. And he had Happy Days going on one set, and he had Mork and Mindy going on another stage. He had Laverne and Shirley, and he's running between all of them, running all of these massive hits. And his anecdotes are so special.
When Robin came to audition, Now it's Wednesday. We start Monday morning at 10 o'clock on the sound stage. That is at 9 o'clock we read, 10 o'clock we're on the sound stage. Nobody wanted to play this alien from outer space. Wednesday, now we're shooting on Friday. Wednesday comes, finally, a young, very shy, very quiet man comes with the casting director and hello. And then this human being picked up the script. When he opened his mouth, it was like a volcano went off on stage 19 at Paramount. And I knew, get out of his way, know my lines, and don't try to stand toe-to-toe with this genius that is now standing in front of me.
Wow. And was that Robin Williams' first thing? Was that his first television?
I think it was. Maybe he made appearances before that.
Joelle can look it up for us.
But I think it might have been his first. He did comedy clubs. Now,
right, but his first TV appearance probably, right?
But oh my
Henry,
Lord.
what was your how did you get we always like to ask our guests how did you get the part? What was your experience?
Well, how did you get into the industry, and then how did you get the part? What was
the industry? The first thing I did was I was in a repertory company at my drama school in New Haven, Yale Repertory Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would do a play at night with the company, and you would rehearse another play during the day. I made $175 a week. I was in heaven.
Yeah.
Then I went to New York. I tried out for commercials. And then I made enough money. I had just made Lords of Flatbush with Sly Stallone. I made $2,000 for 12 months' work. But I had enough money for a ticket to California for 1 month. In that month, the first thing I got was the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was the Friends of that time.
Yes.
I got a scene. I had 8 lines. And then the next week, my second week, I auditioned at Paramount. The room of actors waiting had all been on television. I had seen them all. And me. Oh, my goodness. It was my turn. I walked in, and something went off in my brain, and I changed my voice. And I did the 8 lines, threw the script up in the air, sauntered out of the room. And when my money ran out, when I had to fly back to New York, the producers called and said, "Would you like to play this part?"
Oh my God!
Wow!
And I said, "Okay."
What did you do to your voice? Because how did you? I mean,
all of a sudden, I went.
What was cool? You had to figure out like what's cool or like universal.
But I didn't. I didn't figure anything out. I went from being Henry, nervous, a short Jew, to, "Hey, look! Don't look at me like that." What do you?
Hey!
And all of a sudden, and then I threw the script up in the air. I walked out of that room, and Gary Marshall said, "I think I saw something in this young man," and he gave me the part.
I read that you weren't at all what Gary pictured for the part.
No, they wanted a tall Italian. They got a very short Jew from New York. And people, I'm even to this day, when I travel around the country, around the world, people say to me, "Oh my God, I thought you were much taller."
Yeah. Did they shoot you in such a way that
just the energy.
Now the energy that's the most powerful energy. Like we have jokes about it, or at work, Zach and I, like we had a stand-in named Deontay, and we called him Black Fonzie because he just had the gift of gab with the ladies, and he knew how to work the crew, and he knew everything. It was like, and we called him Black Fonzie because he just was so cool. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and all the ladies loved him. All the ladies loved him.
Well, the ladies loved him, but he had to end with every department. He was my stand-in. he had an in with every department. So every department knew him and he knew everyone. And he was just a cool guy on set. You know what I mean?
That's
it was
great.
just, yeah, man.
That sounds
I make the
great.
joke of I have a friend who's very promiscuous, and I say he's got to move cities now, because I remember there being an episode where Fonzie had been with every woman in Milwaukee, and he had to move, didn't he have to? I just remember some joke about that. So I always say that my friend, like, he's going to change cities because he's like Fonzie. He's already dated every girl in the city. Henry, this show was enormous. I mean, this show wasn't just on the air. Nowadays, obviously it goes without saying, there's so much more content. But what was life like for you when you were on this show? I mean, I saw that the Beatles came up. I read a Beatle came up to you.
Beatles came. I met every Beatle except for George.
Oh, wow.
I was walking on the street in New York City with my wife, and coming the other direction was Paul McCartney.
Mm.
And he went, the Fonz. And we stood talking. A woman came out of a store, gave us each a rose. Another woman came up and said, hey, do you mind if I just stand here? He said, we're in the middle of a conversation. No. Then he gave me a phone number. And he said, let's get in touch. And I, like an asshole, call that number every 10 minutes for 24 hours.
As you would, as would I. Yeah.
As you should.
Never answered. So if he is listening, I would just like to say, I'm a really good guy. Could you call me back? Because I'd love to have lunch.
That's so funny. Well, I just mean it must have been such a crazy existence, because, you know, the level of success that not only the show had, but your character. I mean, they wanted to like change the name of the show to Fonzie's Happy Days. You broke out on such a level. Must have been.
I asked them. I said, "Look, do me a favor. If I have any juice whatsoever, please do not do that, because it would be such a slap in the face for everybody else." I was part of an ensemble. The Fonz, without that family, without those boys, I don't know where he would be. And it is Happy Days. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Don't fix, right?
Was that hard for Ron Howard, do you think? Like, has he ever shared with you that, obviously he broke out too, but I wonder, what was that difficult for him?
I think that he was signed on as the star of the show.
Yeah.
And we had a drive home in his VW, the original little bug.
Mm.
We drove home from set. We were doing one of those 2-part openings. And I said, okay, Ron, we've got to talk about this. And he said, look, it hurt my feelings. But you did not do anything. You don't have an attitude. It's good for the show. You didn't try to, to outshine anybody.
Yeah.
So, it's the yin and the yang of that. But that was the only time we ever talked about it. And he is still my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right after that, he directed a movie. His first directorial debut, he made you the star of the movie.
He came to me and he said, look, Warner Brothers will fund the movie. They're going to give me $6 million, but they asked, would you be in the movie? And you can play either role. Mm. And I thought, well, I was flamboyant for 10 years. I'm going to play Richie. And so I chose the character of Chuck. Mm. And he was incredible. He was 25. Complete.
Were you 25
He
at the
was.
time?
No, I was. I was. He was 18 when I met him, and I was 27.
Okay.
So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
You're in your 30s.
I was about 10 years older than he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 25 years old. And he said, are they going to listen to me? The crew has been doing this longer than I've been alive. I said, Ron, I promise you. And he has such power as a person that when he would stop and say, let me think about that, everybody waited for Ron to tell us what to do.
I read for him when I was a kid for Parenthood.
Yeah.
I read for the part that went to Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
And I had this great memory you just reminded me of, and this never happened ever in another audition. He was so sensitive. I must have been 13, 14, and I think he knew that having anybody else in the room would be intimidating. And I didn't know who he was, or at least the young me didn't put it all together.
Right.
He was the guy from Happy Days, whatever. But the point was that he didn't have anyone else in the room, and he and I sat next to each other, and we just read the scene, just me and him. There was nobody else in the room.
Yeah.
And I always had such a lovely memory of that. Going, what a sensitive man to take all the intimidation out for the young kid.
Very wise. He was even at 18 when I first met him, just an incredibly thoughtful, wise human being.
I was, you have goals in life and everything like that. And one of my goals was to work with Ron Howard in some way, right? And I think Felicity, when I got Felicity, that was Imagine Entertainment.
Yes.
That's his company, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, I did it! I made it! We did it! Yes!
Yeah.
My name and Ron Howard's name are right next to each other. These are goals in life. You know what I mean?
I'm
These
with
are
you.
goals.
My goal is to get back on Broadway.
Oh,
You should be on
you
Broadway,
can make
though.
that dream anytime.
Come on.
Yeah, not so easy. Not so easy.
Really?
I did
Well,
3 plays. The first one closed in one night. The second one ran for 9 months. The third one closed in 7 nights. So now I need to do it one more time to make that third one right.
Yeah, I hear you. I've done a bunch of I've only done one Broadway show, but it's off-Broadway ones. And the Broadway thing is so tough because, the critics can literally shut it down real fast. When people go, what does Henry mean it closed in one night? What happens is if you get trashed by the critics in New York, people aren't going to buy tickets. So
Especially
it just closes.
the New York Times.
Yeah, whatever the New York Times says.
At that time.
In London, Henry, I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but there's a little bit more. It's a fun experience that to do a show there, and also it's a little more spread out in terms of not one paper controlling your entire fate.
Yeah, right.
But,
in England, I did what is called pantomime. At Christmas, you put on this play with music, and I did Peter Pan. I played Captain Hook.
Yeah,
and I did it in 7 cities, and it's been going since 1756, let's say. And this particular form. And the audience knows to yell at you and to yell at Peter and go, he's behind you. And I would walk down to the lip of the stage and I would say, if you warn him one more time, I'm coming to your house and taking all your presents.
Oh, I would love to see you on stage, Henry. So I hope you do that.
Thank you.
Will you tell us about segueing into directing? Because that's what you did, and it's something I can relate to myself. That I've been doing a lot of. And did you feel that you'd been educated on doing? I mean, it's obviously sitcom directing is a unique style, but was that an education for you?
It was, and not only that, everything I learned about being a professional on the set, in front or behind the camera, I learned from Gary Marshall and from Jerry, rest his soul, Paris. Jerry Paris directed, 240 episodes of Happy Days. He was unbelievable. He was also the dentist on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was the next door neighbor.
Okay.
A brilliant man. So this is the way I see my directing career. Years ago, you would get a lawnmower, and you would pull it in order to start it. You would pull the cord, and it would just about turn over. I was that lawnmower. My directing career never really turned over. I directed commercials. I directed half an hour.
Donald said you directed. Donald told a story about you directing him in Clueless. And
that
you
was great.
You were kind to him, even though he was tardy one day.
I was so tardy. It was the first day you were there, and I was so tardy.
That was the beginning of my directing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you put me in my. First of all, you put me in my place, one, but you did it in such a good way that, to this day, I mean, dude. You've just done, there have been a lot of things for me that you've done. When I didn't have friends, you introduced me to your daughter. You know what I mean? There's so many things that's just great about you, Henry. You are an amazing person. And I think you're an amazing director also.
Wow.
And
you're the only one.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm sure every actor that you've ever worked with is no, he's a fucking amazing director. Listen. I hope you get another chance to direct as well, too, then, if that's the case. Because listen, man, to this day, nobody has been able to get through to me the way you've been able to get through to me.
Wow. Thank you.
And it was on a show that, it was a kid's show, but it was an adult show, but you came in and you gave it such life. And you're directing Tim Conway at the same time as me.
With Tim Conway was point the camera in the right direction. I mean, when you watch on either YouTube or TikTok, when they come up with those Harvey Korman and Tim Conway bits, I wish that I had half that imagination. When Tim Conway was the dentist, and he kept on injecting himself with Novocaine.
If you haven't seen this, audience, you have to look on YouTube.
God.
Just put in Tim Conway dentist. You have to see the sketch from the Cal Burnett show.
But it really is no joke. It is one of the funniest things ever done anywhere.
Now I have to ask you. This is a bit of a segue off Donald mentioning your children. I know both of your children too. What is your secret to parenthood? I mean, I know Max a bit, and he just speaks about you so lovingly. And how did you? Do you have any tips for parents out there? How do you get your kids to love you as much as you do?
Here is my overall tip: a herd child is a powerful child. I grew up with two Germans who did not see me. They didn't know why I wanted to do what I do. They didn't care about what I wanted to do. I did not have an opinion. And I swore to my wife that I would be a different parent. And when your child comes, they're 3 years old, 4 years old, you're late. You can't find your keys. You're going to a meeting. You go, oh my God, Dad, Dad. And you just stand there. I like green. Okay, I'm so glad you said that because we're going to discuss every shade of green when I come back. I'm telling you, it took 30 seconds, 45 seconds. You're no later. You're not more on time. And that child goes, we're gonna talk about green. I'm telling you, that is the great umbrella. And then, see if your child has a problem. You don't know what it is. You don't know the name, but you know there's something going on. Respect the problem and look for making that child more comfortable because the child knows they've got a problem.
Mm. Well, that's really good advice. It's funny. I know Max from your son because we both were working out of the same office once, and he was just the way he. I told him how much I was a fan of yours, and the way he beams when he talks about you, and he's a wonderful filmmaker himself. And I it was just so sweet. And I thought to myself, well, I wanted to just bring it up to you because, so many people have issues with their parents and they may love their parents, but their parents drive them crazy. And it was just notable to me how enamored and in love and crazy about you.
Well, I've got 3 incredible children. My stepson came into my life when he was 4. Zoe and Max came along after that. Zoe just had an event here in our front lawn for her charity called This Is About Humanity. She was 37, sitting on her couch, watching children being separated from their parents, said, oh my goodness, those could be my children. With 2 other ladies, started this organization. They've raised over $2 million with no overhead. Max said to me at 10, and to Stacy, I'm going to be a director. I took him to see Bottle Rocket by Wes Anderson. He said, I'm going to do that. He just hired me this past January. He's doing the American Horror Stories.
Yeah.
And on the set, he was the executive producer, director. On the set, I asked for a cup of coffee, and the crew brought me a paper cup of coffee, and on it wrote, Daddy Winkler.
Oh,
My heart flew out of my body.
Kvelling, as we say. That's so sweet, and he's really doing well. He's got a lot of great projects, and I'm so happy for him.
Let me just say, I haven't met him, but he directed Javier Bardem, and then Javier Bardem just invited he and his wife to dinner. I said, could I drive? Could I just be the limo driver? I'll wear a hat and everything.
That's funny. All right, because we have you for a limited time, we're going to jump to Arrested Development.
Yes.
I mean, I want to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Well, go ahead.
You can say what you want to.
It's okay.
Okay.
You go. No, you go, babe. You go.
Okay, all right. But let me just say one thing. In between Arrested Development and the directing and you were raising family. You were being a dad at home for that time.
Right.
What made you all of a sudden say, you know what? Because when we had you on Clueless, you didn't want to act on the show at all. You were like, no. Even though they convinced you toward the end, like you're in the credits, you didn't want to act in the show. What convinced you to get back into acting again?
Somebody asked. I'm not kidding.
Well, Sandler, you did a bunch of Sandler
I
movies,
did a Sandler movie, but it was hard for me to get an acting job. That's how I started writing children's books. We just wrote our 40th
oh my God.
children's book that comes out in October, Detective Duck, Volume 2.
You write those
with Lin Oliver, with my partner Lin. We've written every book together. And it's amazing. I thought I was stupid. I can't read. And with Lin, I have written 40 children's novels.
Wow.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
No, so I could interview you forever. But my question is, because Donald and I have faced this, we were on a popular show.
Yeah.
We're neither one of us on the level of being Fonzie, but we definitely got known for being a type.
You bet.
And then you, which is, don't get me wrong, the first thought is, of course, we are so lucky, we are so grateful, but it is hard to, I'm still working on branching out. I'm doing a tiny arc on this show called Bad Monkey, where I'm actually doing something 180 degrees from JD. And
with
people
Mr.
are,
Vaughn?
And it's so refreshing to get that opportunity. And so I can imagine what you felt because you were on Lunchboxes. I mean, you were so known as that guy.
Do you know, actually, when I had an office at Paramount, and I sat in my office at my desk, and I literally had psychic pain because I had no plan B. I had just lived my imagination.
Yeah.
And now I can't get hired. I had no idea what to do. And I realized here's a great life lesson. When you don't know what to do, just sit for a minute and let it percolate. And all of a sudden it will come. My lawyer, Skip Brittenham III, said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to produce. I said, I can't produce. I know nothing. He said, you'll learn. And the first show that I heard all these ideas, I said, oh, I like that idea. I want to see that idea. The first show I ever produced with a man named John Rich, who's no longer with us, was MacGyver.
Oh my God, I forgot you produced MacGyver. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a big hit.
It was a big
Huge
hit.
hit.
It ran for
It's such a big hit that they remade it.
Well, they remade it as a comedy, but I mean,
they remade MacGyver as a television show too.
Yeah.
They remade it as
you're
a
right.
television show.
Oh,
And
I'm
then
thinking of the silly one.
They spoofed it on Saturday Night Live
Yeah.
with MacGruber.
Yeah.
Right. You're right. I'm thinking MacGruber. But wow, sorry, Henry, the first thing you produced was MacGyver?
Yes, that was the first show. The second show was the next hit that I was able to produce with Ann Daniel was Sightings, because I love the
Sightings,
paranormal.
Yeah.
I just love that whole, I really think there's got to be a whole other level that we're not privy to.
Yeah.
But the second...
I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you say, okay, so go on. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You said
The second show was an amazingly funny half-hour comedy called Mr. Sunshine, starring Jeff Tambor as a blind English professor. And it was, I mean, I cannot even begin to tell you the writers that we got. But that only lasted 13 episodes, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I mean, Donald and I have both been on 10-episode shows.
I've been on episode show. Listen, I've been on the shows that only lasted 13 episodes, and that was it.
Yeah, well, I think I beat you. Alex Inc. only went 10.
But you know what?
No, you did more than that. You guys did like 12.
No, we did 10, I think. But it was
here's
fun
the
while it
thing.
lasted.
I will say this. Thank goodness that Hollywood at least lets the 13 still air. Because I remember, or you get paid for the 13.
Oh, let me tell you.
Because I remember you get canceled. That's a wrap.
Oh, Donald, I was there.
Day one.
I did a show that I turned down twice, and it was written by Mark. It'll come to me. He was in Gary Goldberg's camp, Family Ties. And he came to me with this idea of a Rush Limbaugh with a gay daughter, but it was in the 80s.
Oh my God.
And I said, no, it's too controversial, but it is so funny. I've got to say yes. And we sold it to NBC. Somebody at NBC must have looked at it after it was bought and said, not on my network. Now we're back in the world. We sell it to Fox. They don't want the gay daughter. So now it is David Schwimmer, who is my son, who goes to college to be a lawyer, comes back, he wants to be a chef.
But it has nothing to do with the original
That has
premise.
nothing to do with gay or anything.
So
wait.
This is the life lesson. When you're doing something and it gets bastardized to where you don't recognize it anymore, go home.
Yeah. I got used to reminding me of the funniest story from the movie The TV Set. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Well, listeners and Henry, I want you to see this movie called The TV Set. It's about the making of a pilot. And it's so funny, Henry, because there's so many inside jokes. You'll laugh at it. And David Duchovny plays. I think he's the showrunner of the creator of the show. And Sigourney Weaver plays the studio head. And she says, "Look, we want to do the show, but we want to get rid of the suicide in the pilot." And David Duchovny says, "The suicide is the whole reason I wrote the show. The suicide is was the raison d'etre for the whole pilot, and it's the whole reason that I'm sitting here in front of you and the show's getting made is because that it started because of this, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the suicide. And there's a long pause, and Sigourney Weaver goes, "But what if it wasn't?" And to me, as someone who's in this industry, it like summed up everything about the struggle of getting stuff made.
Oh my God, it's so true. I was offered a show, very funny, and I lost my wife, my daughter, her mother, and the network said, "It's so funny. We really want to do it, but our audience doesn't like grief."
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Our audience does not do well with grief.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's all that's on television right now. Wait, I don't understand. What analytics? What analytics were they looking at the time?
I don't know.
Another funny. Well, I don't know. I've just been doing pilots and stuff. You see the dial testing and everything. It's so it's such a trippy, weird thing. But wait, I want to leave time to talk. We got to leave time to talk about 2 more mega hits. So you basically got a cameo on Arrested Development, and then you ended up doing 32 episodes. So I mean, did they just love the character and love what you were doing so much?
That is exactly right. I just did what my instinct told me to do, and Mitch Hurwitz kept writing me. And
it was so funny.
He is, I have literally worked with such brilliant human beings.
Yeah, you really have. You've worked with some of the greatest.
Adam Sandler.
Greatest, dude.
Yeah.
Mitch Hurwitz, John Schur, and then Bill Hader and Alec Berg.
Alec Berg, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you really have worked with some of the most legendary showrunners of all time.
It's unbelievable.
And
then let's not forget Children's Hospital with that whole bunch.
We just filmed that in the same set as Scrubs.
Oh
you guys did.
my God.
When what was Arrested? I did a cameo. I did a little thing on Arrested, and I had so much fun. It felt like there was a lot of room for you guys to play around, right? Was that the environment that you could do some improvisation?
In structure comes freedom, and you could play around. But when they heard that you were going too far adrift, they would pull you right back.
Yeah, I had a thing where I was riffing with David Cross because we were both never nudes. And we were both standing there in tattered jean short shorts. And David Cross, he was riffing the most insane, hilarious stuff.
Yes.
None of which ended up in the show, by the way. I mean, a tiny fraction of. But I remember laughing so hard at this insane stuff he was saying, which I would have loved if it was in the show. But I'm sure Mitch was like, all right, let's trim all that back.
Yeah, no, Mitch was very, very clear about his vision. And I mean, that is the beginning and the end of a great showrunner. When they've got the vision, and in that structure, you get to be free.
Yeah, well, we've had that with Bill Lawrence, and I have to tell you, I'm directing Shrinking now. And
Mark Lawrence, thank you. Mark Lawrence was the man who created the show I did, Monty, about Rush Limbaugh and his gay daughter.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that we had that with Bill as actors, and it's funny. I when I'm directing, I directed Shrinking, and I'm turning in my cut, and I'm sitting there with Bill, and it's his baby. I'm directing it, but we have this little battle sometimes over what's going to end up in the show and what's not going to end up in the show. But you're right. The brilliance of a great showrunner is someone like a Mitch Hurwitz or a Bill Lawrence or a Gary Marshall who goes, "I hear you. I see what your contribution was. I love it. But here's my vision and here's what it's going to be." Because for me, I would let my episode go long. Bill has a very clear vision. He does not like half-hour comedies that go too long.
Right.
So he's cutting things that I'm going, why are you cutting that? It's funny. It's nice. He's like, it's too long. Show's too long. And that's just a little minuscule example of like, this is his baby. This is his vision. This is why he's brilliant at what he does,
Yeah, but you know what? Everybody else benefits from somebody having a real point of view.
Yes.
Everybody, every member of the cast, the crew, the writers, everybody. It is essential.
Yeah.
Because I think I am so funny. I am so great. Oh my God, I just improvised. And then you realize maybe I should just go back to the script and shut up.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, when you realize you've gone too far, it's a little embarrassing.
Well, and sometimes you're laughing. Sometimes you're just cracking up because it's new. And you know what? And you realize like, hey, we laughed hard at the table read at that joke. And now we're all just used to it. So it's not new. And now we think we're hilarious because we've improvised 5 other things. But you know what? Really, the best joke is the one that they wrote.
The one that we started with.
But Donald,
we wasted so much time just now fucking around, guys. Let's just go back to what was there.
But Donald, I have to say, I can't let what you just said go.
Okay.
You can't be embarrassed. And I'll tell you why. If you don't try, if you don't put it out there, you'll never know.
Yeah.
It might be amazing, but you can't know that unless you try it. It doesn't work. Hey, you go on.
I think that's the best advice, Henry, for actors that are listening. Like the biggest thing of acting is getting back to when you were a kid and didn't have this embarrassment voice in your head. Mm-hmm. It's getting back to being a little kid who's silly and crazy and doesn't have that filter because they don't want to be judged. I mean, that's the best thing an acting class can give you.
I'm telling you, you cannot be embarrassed. There's no room for it and there's no purpose for it. You got to try your imagination. And then if it doesn't work, I tried. I'm moving on.
Yeah. Well, this is the perfect segue because I'm such a good podcast host.
You've been doing pretty well today. I'm not going to lie.
Well, listen, watch this one.
The conversation between you two.
Watch this one, Donald. Watch this segue. You sound very much to me right now, Henry, like an acting teacher, which brings me to one of the finest pieces of television, I think, in at least the last 2 decades. Barry, you are so phenomenal on this show. You've got an Emmy sitting behind you for it.
Thank you.
How did that come about? How did you get it? How did you become part of this universe?
3 things. I got a call that Bill Hader and HBO would like to meet you. I thought, oh my goodness. I'd never worked for HBO and I watch Bill Hader every Saturday night on Saturday Night Live. This is amazing. They said, you're on a short list. I said, is Dustin Hoffman on that list? Because if he is, I'm not going in. They said no. They sent me the script. Max was here. I gave him the script. He's now directing me for my audition.
Amazing.
Wow.
I go in.
Let's go.
Things go. I meet Bill. I meet Alec. They asked me to be in it. And I'm telling you, it was all I did was try and fill the vision of those 2 guys. And it was, oh my, what a journey. And I have to tell you, I love teaching. And I only do it once a year at the Vulture Festival, which will be in November. They hold a Vulture right here in LA, the Vulture Festival. And I go and I hold an acting class and people come with.
Did they know?
They do know. I mean,
I'm saying it's funny that, obviously you're playing such a character, and I loved you on the show. But there's moments where as I get talk to you, where I see your personality, and especially when you're giving life advice, come out of it. Did they know anything about you when they created this character, or it's probably like I'm guessing what happened with Donald and I, where it's almost like Bill began to morph and shape the character around.
I think that's true. They morphed and shaped the character. I was supposed to be just a hard-ass asshole.
Uh-huh.
And they went, oh, yeah, he could be, like a human a little bit. Yeah. And so, yes, they had a vision. And in that vision, they wrote to me.
Yeah.
And then, let me tell you, toward the end, it got so dark. this comedy that I had to buy a miner's hat with a lamp so I could see where we were going.
It was so brilliant. If you haven't watched Barry, please watch Barry, especially if you're a Scrubs fan. I really think that you'll like it. I think Bill Hader did something I love so much, which is, and I think that we aspired to do on Scrubs, which was take single camera comedy directing to a higher level.
Yes, right.
And man, did he raise the bar on direction of a half-hour comedy.
But I'll tell you something, again, you can't throw the word around, but there is brilliance in that young man.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, it's so clear.
Whoa.
It is so clear, man. Yeah, that I'm gonna say Bill Hader is a very, very just character work, all of that stuff. He's just very unique, man. And then the fact that he can turn shows like that are kind of dramatic to me. But when you can turn a drama into a dramedy and start winning comedy awards, I think you really, really, you're touching something. Like, that's
Absolutely.
hard to do.
I agree with you 100%.
Leaning into the joke is easy. Freaking telling a joke and people getting it because it's in the style that you're trying to tell it. Also, telling a joke in a different style is I don't know, man. I could be loud and get laughs. It's kind of hard for me to be soft and quiet and be like this and talk natural and get a laugh. There's so many levels to it, and this was one of those shows where like it just showed your brilliance.
Donald, you trust. You see the person in front of you. You see the two people in front of you, and then you just trust and you give yourself over to the process. Halfway through the fourth year, because there are only 4 seasons, Bill said, "Hey, want to know how it ends?" And I'm not going to tell you because there might be somebody in your audience who hasn't seen it.
I'm sure.
Don't do it.
But I went in the corner and shook for a while.
I had to tell you, just from your performance was just magical. The leading lady, Sarah Goldberg, there's a few times where she does a monologue as a oneer that never cuts off of her face. I think Bill did it a few times, and it's just unbelievable, her performance. And just really, really, just an incredible
She's
TV
on
show.
Industry now. That show, Industry.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
Oh, that's
I keep hearing about that.
That is a hard show.
I want to check that out. Now, let's just end on you become kind of. Are you still? I know you post pictures of your fishing. You're an avid fisherman.
I love it more than I can tell you.
Really, which style do you do?
We do. Well, I've done a lot. Deep sea fishing, I vomit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Bass fishing is you catch it, you reel it in. Trout fishing is like Zen. It's like a washing machine for your brain. You have to be in tune with the fish. You cannot worry about one other thing that is happening to you in the world. And my wife is a great fisher person. I don't show pictures of my wife's fish because they're usually bigger.
How did you learn? How did you get into it?
Skip Brittenham III took me and Stacy down the Smith River in Montana with an outfit where you float all day, you sleep out under the stars, and for 5 days you fish.
Wow.
And I didn't catch much, but no pun intended, I was hooked. And so since the middle 80s, Stacy and I have gone every year to fly fish for trout.
Yeah.
Wow. You
Ken
sound
Jenkins talked a lot about fly fishing. He really enjoyed fly fishing. He really enjoys fly fishing.
Oh my God. Michael.
He would talk about it.
Jimmy Kimmel is a big fisherman. Michael Keaton is a big fisherman.
and this is fly fishing.
This is fly fishing exclusively, yeah.
I only know it from the movie A River Runs Through It.
You are in that place.
Yeah.
You are hearing that water. You are catching those fish. You take a picture. You put it back. You catch them next year.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And you could also feel like you're Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Too,
Well, yes.
Well, from the face down.
Well, Henry, we want to thank you so much.
There must be men on this planet that are just so ugly they don't leave home because Brad got all the good looking.
Yeah.
He's just so handsome, man.
Oh
Dom
my
and
God.
We got to meet him recently.
Dom and I got lost in his eyes recently.
And I found myself when we're leaving, like, can I have a hug? Like, you know what I
I'm
mean?
telling
Just saying,
you.
can I have a hug?
Yeah.
You know what I did?
Donald,
With Brad, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we're at an award show. There's Brad Pitt in this long flowing cashmere coat.
yeah,
and I
of
said
course.
to him everything that I said, don't move. I just have to get my wife. And I got my wife and took a picture of those two together.
It's funny. We were walking. Donald and I were walking at F1 in Vegas, and I told him we're going to meet Brad Pitt. Act cool, and he goes, "I'm going to take a selfie." I go, "Don't take a selfie." He goes, "I can't take a selfie." I go, "Do not. We're supposed to act cool. We're supposed to act like we always hang out with David Fincher and Brad Pitt." Anyway, Henry, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. Wow. I want him to be my father. I kept thinking of my dad and how I miss my dad the whole time.
Wow. He's a great man.
What a
Your
man.
dad was a great man.
No, my
too.
dad was an incredible man, but wasn't he like the father that you want in your life? I mean, he's the most.
Well, look, I kept telling y'all in the beginning, he's like a mentor to me, and I don't think he knows it. Everything I said, with every insecurity I had, everything. Donald, hold up. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him.
Let's address this.
I love him.
You know what I mean? Like, he's just such a great person. He's one of those people that, you know, and you know, we don't know what dwells deep, dark in his heart, but there's got to be so much love.
But he seems to have it all. You know, he seems to have it all because when I say have it all, I don't mean the career success, although he's had that. I just mean he seems so fulfilled in his life with his family and with his fishing and his children's books. He just seems like he seems what I aspire to be, which is like present and joyful. And yeah, your career will have highs and lows and things will happen, but he's got the love of this family, and he and his wife go fishing together. I mean, he just seems like the dreamiest person.
Yeah, man. It seems like he's living the dream.
Yeah.
But he also said something that was really important, though. It's because he's grateful.
Yep. That's what he
He's
started the
grateful.
whole
He's
thing
gracious.
with.
Yeah.
We need to work on that, you and me.
Oh my goodness gracious, Stewie. Oh,
I
wow.
do it every night I go to bed. I do have the ritual of saying that I learned, saying, what am I grateful for that happened today? I've been doing okay at that. It's just that when annoying things happen or things that are frustrating or I get depressed about something, he's right. It's the best thing to do is switch to gratitude and switch to how lucky we are, because we forget.
Because we forget. We really do.
And that's everybody listening. We all, I'm sure everybody listening can relate that we have so much to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for you, Joel and DJ Daniel.
He called Joel,
Shucks, thank
Joel, and Daniel DJ. All right, DJ.
I loved
All right,
it.
DJ.
I
All
loved
right,
it.
Joel.
All right, Joel.
I'm Joel from now on.
The
That's pretty
audience
funny.
not watching on YouTube didn't see that he did that whole interview with a baller Emmy sitting right beside him for Barry.
Yeah, he did.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, by the way, if I ever win an Emmy, it's going to go right on
Well,
this
you got
counter.
a
right?
Grammy. Why don't you freaking put the Grammy up so we can see
the
it?
Grammy doesn't feel
Doesn't feel what?
well, it doesn't feel relevant.
Motherfucker, you got part of the EGOT.
I did get the one
You
part
got
of
the
the
good. You got the good.
I got the good.
You got the good.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Here's some stories about a show we made about a bunch of docs and nurses and a